You have to treat yourself like you matter, because if you don't, then you don't take care of yourself, and you become vengeful and cruel, and you take it out on people around you, and you're not a positive force. None of that's good. So you suffer more, and so does everyone around you. And there's a malevolence that enters into it. None of that's good. So that's what happens if you don't treat yourself like you matter. And then, well, what happens if you don't treat other people like they matter? Well, you lie to them, you cheat them, you steal, you enter into impulsive relationships with them. They can't trust you. That doesn't go anywhere. They don't like you. You end up alone at best, and maybe like incarcerated at worst. Like, that doesn't work. And so you watch the people around you who thrive, regardless of what they say. They act out the proposition that everyone matters. And then you have a functional society. And I think, okay, well, if when you act out the proposition that everyone matters, you have a functional society, maybe that's evidence that that proposition is true. It's like, I think it's true.
I can tell you why. The reason why they don't make changes is because what happens is you say, okay, I want to do X. And then immediately what you see next are all the obstacles. And so you're actually smart. You're not necessarily afraid. You're smart because you think, how the hell am I going to go from being a lawyer to a carpenter when I have a mortgage to pay? I've got tuition bills to go. My wife is going to kill me if I make this kind of change. And so you get stuck because you see obstacles. And then you never do anything.
I just saw this Rumi quote that I love. Set your life on fire and seek those who fan your flames. The Philly translation of that is, don't be hanging with no jank-ass jokers that don't help you shine. The prerequisite for spending time with any person is that they nourish and inspire you. They feed your flame. Look at your last 5 text messages. Are those people feeding your flames or dousing your fire? Put your phone down for just a second and look around. Look to the people around you. Are those people throwing logs on your fire, or are they pissing on it? The people that you spend time with are gonna make or break your dreams. Everybody don't deserve to be around you. You gotta defend your light with your life. So who are the people in your life that are fanning your flames? Shout them out, tag them below.
I think the challenge is that most people have this illusion about life-work balance. And I think that's you know, if you're gonna accomplish anything, it's what people are laughing because you know it's bullshit, right? What's true is life-work integration. So I was just in 21 countries, or 7 countries, 21 days, but who's with me is my family, who's with me is my friends, and I've done well enough to have a plane and bedrooms and all that kind of cool stuff makes it, but when I didn't, we huffed it together, and beginning days it was coach and dragging ourselves around, but I thought it was great for my kids to have schooling, but I thought an education was more valuable, and traveling the earth was a part of that. But you know, we're in the middle of this crazy schedule, but it's not work, it's a mission. When it's work, it's that. I always ask people, I said, how would you describe what you do? And people, I say, is it work, is it career, or is it mission? And most people, of course, say it's work, and that's exactly what it is. It's heavy. If it's, you know, if it's your career, it gives you something more. If it's your mission, it doesn't wear you out, it brings energy to you, it's fulfilling. And if you can tie your mission in with the people that you love, it's pretty cool. You know, there's some people in this room that are my friends. I see Dean here in the front row here, and it's like we're all on this mission and we find time to connect and be with each other and have a blast with each other, but we're sharing about things that matter. I'm not a person to go to a party and like, you know, go in the corner and chit chat. It's like, you want to talk about something deep? Let's rock. You don't? let me go home and be with my family. Or, you know, let me go do something fun, something of that nature. If you can combine your mission with your family, combine your mission with some of your friends, then you're going to accomplish 1,000,000 times more. But if you think it's a sacrifice, don't do it, because then all you're doing is you're going to have resentment later on or frustration later on, and then you really aren't contributing because you're trading off, you're not giving.
I think things through. I'm a games and theory guy, and I sort of ponder options before I make decisions. So I'm less the act from my heart guy and just sort of say what I'm thinking, and I'll in turn internalize a bit and try and imagine, like a chess game, the possible outcomes, and then act accordingly to what I think might be the best. And I think that goes sort of with what a magician thinks through as well.
Right.
Like a stage magician has to keep 2 steps ahead, look over here, while something else is going on over here. Or a close-up magician's got to be very aware of outs and options. So I guess magician at heart would probably be that. I sort of think like a magician.
I remember one day I was having a terrible day at school. Nothing could go right.
And whether it was about me or my friends or something at home, I just wasn't happy that day. And someone came up to me, or not even came up to me, just walked by me and said something like, I like your hair, or you look rested today, or whatever it was, seemingly insignificant, but it had the most significance because it completely turned my day around. And that's the kind of thing that I felt and recognized and told myself. I made a mental note, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that from now on. Whenever, I'm gonna make it a point at least once a day, if not more, hopefully 10, 20 times a day, to walk up to someone or walk by someone and point out something about them that I like, or say something nice and positive, because it could change their day. It could make them feel good about themselves, and it will actually, because I know that it made me feel that way.
A few times that I thought I booked it, like for sure, and you didn't, and like just being heartbroken, and you know, having my mom and my dad kind of pick up the pieces. And I think that was the few times that they actually, started to question themselves, are we doing the right thing by letting them do it and do this, and try to act and take on this profession that, it's such a gamble, and it's a lottery, such a lottery. And you just train yourself to like manage your expectations for the most part when it comes to auditions. I know a system that I started doing was like after the audition, after I left out, I would just throw my sides away. If they really want me, I'll just print them out again. I'll go out and I'll go through the hassle, go to Kinko's, and 'cause I didn't have a printer at the time, and print them out again. And that was just my way of training myself to just forget about it when you leave. It's nothing, it's out of your hands. You've done all you can do. Worrying about it is not gonna, help you get the job. So, it's tough, when it has nothing to do with you. You could have the most talent in the world, feel as though you're perfect for it, and still not get it because maybe the other lead is a little too tall, and you guys don't compliment each other well on screen. That has nothing to do with you whatsoever. And just kind of wrapping your head around the process and knowing that it's completely out of your hands. It's just easier for you to kind of let go and move on to the next thing.
I'm a perfectionist. Like, if my B-roll doesn't look a certain way, there's a slight camera shake in just, if I'm shooting in 120 and it's moving in close, and then, it just kind of goes out. It's garbage, delete it. I don't even want to see it. And even still, at the end of my videos, like, I'm pretty much always unhappy with my videos. It's just like, I don't know, I just don't like my own stuff. And it's because I'm so hard on myself and such a perfectionist. So it's kind of like liberating, also challenging doing a video like this, where it's like, I'm not gonna have any B-roll in it. Like, there's no music I can loop for like 30 minutes without wanting to go crazy. So like, I might not even put music in this video, and just thinking about that stresses me out. It gives me anxiety. Yeah. But I think it's good to like do things that make you feel so uncomfortable. I think that means you're growing. That means as a creative person, you are expanding that toolkit that you have. And I think the bigger that toolkit is, the more valuable it is, because you just understand everything better. So this in and of itself is kind of like us stepping out of our comfort zone and doing something that is completely outside the realm of everything we've done before as far as YouTube goes. Yeah.
Almost 90% of sales managers say they don't have time, And again, it goes back to, look, if you knew it was going to bank you money today, would you make time for it? So they would make time for it, because they make time for the things that make them money. If you have a customer, hopefully, if you have a customer and you're working a deal with that customer and you got a hamburger in front of you, hopefully you're going to push the hamburger aside and work that deal, because the priority is to make money. In the same conversation, that sales manager does not believe that sales training converts to ROI or money, so he doesn't make the time for it. When you say you don't have time, the truth is you're saying, I'm not making it a priority because I don't think it makes me money.
We all need a mission. That's what life should be, is a mission. That's what gives your life purpose and focus and drive and ultimately satisfaction. Now, that mission can be the job you work at. It can be providing for your family, or it can be getting better at jiu-jitsu, or stronger at Olympic lifting, or starting a business that you want to grow and build and take over the world. And sometimes people ask me, what to do if they don't know what their mission is or what their mission should be. And I tell them, if they're in that situation, to go help someone. Go help someone else. Make that your mission. Because that will make you better. And it'll make the world better. And eventually from that, you'll see what your mission is.
Do not cast pearls before swine. And what that means is that if people are not listening to you, stop talking to them. And that is the best piece of advice that I can give you. And what happens is that if you stop talking to people who aren't listening to you and start watching them instead, they will tell you what they're up to. But so if you have things to say them, but you find people that will listen, talk to them. The ones who aren't listening, pull back. Because you're devaluing what you have to say by offering it to an audience that does nothing but reject it. And that's a good guideline to life in general. So pull back.
How do you get money to do what you love? You don't, right? I lost a load of money when I started doing what I loved. What you do is you position yourself to succeed. So for example, if you're doing something else and you want to do this thing you love, you do it after hours. You work 9 to 6, you get home, you kiss the dog, and you go to town. Right? I mean, you start building your equity and your brand and whatever you're trying to accomplish after hours. Everybody has time. Stop watching Lost. That's a good overheard, right? That was a good overheard. So, you know what I mean? I mean, if you want this, if you want bling bling, if you want to buy the jets, if you want to do work, that's how you get it.
Just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean it's not good. And I remember on doing the first X-Men movie, I came in late, I felt a bit behind the 8 ball. I started shooting 4 weeks into filming because I was replacing the guy who was playing the role. So I came in feeling a bit behind the 8 ball, and there was a rhythm going, and I just felt a bit uncomfortable. And I remember him giving me that advice. He goes, your stuff is good. And even if it feels uncomfortable, that can sometimes be right. I think so often, not only on film, but in life, we so want to feel comfortable, but that doesn't always bring the best results. If I look back, I think some of my more successful things, in my point of view, have been the things I've been most nervous about and probably most unsure when I began. There's something about jumping off that cliff, which means you end up going for broke and probably end up taking a few more risks, if you know what I mean.
I say this to people all the time. Most important here is, it isn't me. It's you. And sure, you may have grabbed some little foothold from the podcast or from one of the books, but it isn't me that changes you, it's you. You set the small goals, you achieve those goals, then set some more and achieve those, and set some more goals, maybe a little bit bigger, but not that much bigger. Just start. Start small. Start with changing tomorrow morning, just tomorrow morning. Get that squared away. And then move on to the next day and the next, and move your life to a better place. One little step. One little victory at a time.
I believe in my strategies, and I'm patient as like, all great stuff, especially when you're innovating, doesn't happen right away. This notion that like, oh, Gary, I tried it, I spent $500 on Facebook ads, it doesn't work. Well, what if your video sucked? What if your product and service sucks? I tend to do things that are very early. That has been my career. When I do things, I believe in them. I stick with them based on intuition. Even though for 18 months nobody watched my wine videos at all, I knew it was right, I was right. There's been things I've done that I've jumped off of very quickly. I started a Gary V app, VChat, V-E-E, like WeChat, thought it was funny, for my fans, great CRM one-on-one. Didn't feel right after a week or two, spent plenty of money building it, stopped it after, a couple months. Wine Library TV, 5 years, every day, YouTube. Decided to change it to Daily Grape, insular app. You could buy stuff, subscription for reviews. It was a lot of fun. Only did it for 5 months, stopped it because it didn't feel right anymore. It's always hard to know when to jump off something new. But I find that people don't believe in what they're doing. They hear a guru and they do it begrudgingly because their boss wants them to, or they're like, well, Gary's right a lot, so let me do it, but they don't believe it. And so then they jump, they're looking for no's instead of yeses. Everything I do, every business development, every event I do, every time I try a new marketing tactic or sales tactic, I'm looking for the yes.
Right.
I'm looking for the yes, and if the no punches me, well then I'm like, crap, the no punched me. I believe the majority of people when they try new tactics are looking for the no, and you're gonna getting a lot of subtle no's immediately.
Right.
And so I think that's why that happens.
Rule number 14.
Obsession with adding more value than anybody else ever dreamed of. I mean, my entire life from the very beginning days was how do I do more for others than anyone else on earth? How do I give them experiences that are lasting? How do I create change where change was impossible? How do I take somebody who's been in therapy for 7 years and in an hour produce that result? And the way I did that was by challenging traditional psychologists and psychiatrists and getting on national radio and saying, give me your worst patient, I'll handle them in an hour, which was pretty abrasive. You know, as a young kid, you can get by with that stuff. But the best part was I backed it up. And so one of the first interventions I did was in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I got on the radio. And this psychiatrist got on the phone and just on the radio live and just thrashed me. You're a liar, you're a charlatan. People like you should not be allowed on the radio. And I said, sir, I said, are you a scientist? He said, of course, I'm a physician. I said, well, a scientist would never make an assumption. And I said, you've never met me, right? No. You've never met my clients? No. And you're calling me a liar on national radio. I said, you must be stating your hypothesis. Your hypothesis is that I'm a liar and a charlatan. And if you're stating a hypothesis and you're truly a scientist, you got to be willing to test it. Am I right? Yep. He goes, well, yeah. I said, great. I'm doing a free guest event at the Holiday Inn tomorrow night. Anyone hearing my voice can come. I'm going to do a series of demonstrations, and I'm going to take one of your clients and turn around. I said, share with me somebody that you've never been able to change. I said, I'm sure you got plenty of those. You want to play hardball? I can play hardball. He goes, well, I have patients that aren't ready to change yet. I said, I haven't found any. Of course, I've done 3 therapies total. But I had so much belief. So long story short, he told me this woman he'd been working on for 7 years with a snake phobia. A phobia is not just a fear, it's an uncontrolled response to fear. So like, she dreamed the snake would bite her on the face and then the adrenaline would shoot through her body and wake her up. And this would happen 4 to 7 times a night. Oh my goodness. 7 years. So, you know, he was put in a corner, and so he brought her down, and it took me about 15 minutes. At the end of it, I tested first, and she's screaming and shaking, and then I wrapped the snake around her. And that changed my entire career, because in that moment, there was no question. Everybody in the audience saw that this woman is transformed. And I said, you've been treated by that psychiatrist for how many years? Wow. 7 years. Then I took on sports stars. Then I turned around, you know, I did some work with Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, Bill Clinton. And as the years went by, it just built and built and built.
Hey, I want to talk to you today about success. Success, duty, obligation, responsibility. If you approach it any other way, which most people are, most people think, well, I'll be successful if the economy works. I'll be successful if something happens. I'll be successful if I win the lottery ticket. Look, you're not going to be successful if you don't demand it. If you literally don't stake a claim to it and say, this is mine, it's important. You're not going to have it, I promise you. I know, I'm telling you from experience. I spent the first 25 years of my life like a spectator, watching other people get successful and then wondering why I wasn't. Success is your duty. It is your responsibility. Your obligation and your responsibility. It's important.
What if I told you this was the last Monday morning of your life? What if I told you you died this week? Would you complain about your crap job or that test you don't want to take? I doubt it. You would go much higher level thinking. Well, that's really what it takes. It takes understanding that if you're not pumped right now, if you're begrudging what you're about to do, if you're not looking forward to it, look, I respect practicality. You gotta go through school because your parents want to. You gotta pay your rent. You got student loans, I get it. But please recognize the world we're living in. We're living in a world where there's so much more opportunity. This internet thing created way more opportunity for all of us, way more. I mean, look, you might not even be alive. Like, your mom and dad could have had sex like 3 minutes later and you wouldn't even exist and you're complaining. You could have ended up being a bus, a tree. I just don't get the mentality of being head down sad on a Monday morning. I'm gonna make Monday morning my bitch. I'm gonna make you Saturday Monday morning. That's what I wanna do every morning, and that's what I want from you. Please, take a step back and think about how awesome it actually is. And then recognize that you can attack the world in a totally different way because you were lucky enough to be born during this era.
I just feel like advice that I would give is just like let yourself be so consumed in your art or whatever your passion is. It's literally the greatest feeling in the world. It's like love. Like it's, you know, to just let yourself be just like swallowed whole by what makes you feel alive and what connects you to, you know, the universe and that inner voice. There's nothing more beautiful than that. And it's such a selfless thing to share that, you know, to share that with the world. Because I think I love that there's this quote, I can't remember it word for word, but this guy says something like, share your talent and share your dreams with the world, because what the world needs is more people who come alive. Something along those lines. But yeah, because, you know, by you just expressing yourself, you kind of ignite a fire in somebody else to express themselves
in some way, you know, like,
and that would just make us all like so much happier as people. You know what I mean? Like just do everything for love, and you'll feel so fulfilled.
How many of your parents told you this? Don't get too much attention. Fly under the radar. Don't toot your own horn. Be seen and not heard. Dude, you don't get attention today, you have absolutely zero chance of being successful. Money follows attention. Period. End of story. You guys that don't have time for Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram, you're like, I ain't got time for all that. How many have said that before? You're like, I ain't got time for all that bullshit. I'm busy being broke. I'm busy running my shit into the ground. I'm busy freaking with a bunch of old lies and old ideas. I'm busy paying for my house note for the next 27 years, stuck in one place, and I can't move to jobs.
I hate that people act like they don't have a choice, you know? You got a choice in any and everything you do. Here's one thing that I'll say to your listeners, and when I say it, just think about it. Do you know how much energy and time it takes to be angry? Do you know how much time it takes to hold a grudge? To really muster up the energy to hold on to a grudge. I don't like you. Every time I see you, I gotta let you know I don't like you. I don't like you. That's energy.
Right.
That's
Feels
energy
bad
that
too.
I'm throwing all this stuff. I'm throwing all this stuff your way. And that's energy that I could use to go into something else. Like when I think about my time, I think about my energy. I think about my efforts. How much time and energy do I really have, and how much do I want to put into stuff that's not going to affect me on a day-to-day basis?
It's just negative, just nonsense.
Nonsense. I mean, I don't have the time for it. That's why the negativity that I have received, I respond with kindness.
Really sad to see that people are disenchanted and nihilistic and depressed and anxious and aimless and perverse and vengeful and all of those things. It's terrible. And then to see people question whether that's necessary and then to start to rise out of it. It's like, it's so fun. Like last night I was after my talk, it's overwhelming. I don't usually think about these things, but I was after my talk last night, and so all these people line up, and you know, they have their 15 seconds with me, and they're kind of tentative. They're excited and attentive when they come up to talk to me, and then they have, you know, 15 seconds of time to tell me something. I'm really listening to them, and they're hesitant about whether or not to share the good news about their life, you know, and I think it's often because when people share good news about their life, people don't necessarily respond positively. You know, they don't get encouragement. And people need so little encouragement. It's just unbelievable. And so they'll tell me something good, and I think, oh, that's so good. You know, somebody says, oh, I'm getting along way better with my father. I haven't seen him for 10 years, and now we get along. It's like, God, great. And then the power of that, you can't overstate the power of that for individuals to get their life together. The individual is an unbelievably powerful force, and every single person who gets their act together a little bit has the capacity to spread that around them. It's a chain reaction, and so it's a lovely thing to see.
Everyone in this room knows how to create. You're not a manager of your life, you're a creator of your life, or you wouldn't be in this room. How do you create your life? You get hungry for something, don't you? Who has done something in your life that once seemed difficult or impossible, and now it's part of your life? Who's got something in your life in this area? Say I. How did you do it? You created it 3 ways. Number 1, You decided there's something you wanted so bad that you unleashed all your desire. You became obsessed with it. If it was a business or a car or a relationship or a transformation in your body, if there's something you once envisioned and now it's real, it's because you didn't just envision it, you brought so much emotion to it that now it's in your life. It was once a dream, it was once a goal, and now it's in your life. How many have something like that in your life now? Say I. You may take it for granted now, hopefully not, but it was once just a vision. It may have seemed impossible at one time. So how did you do it? You started with a concrete vision of what you wanted and you focused on it continuously, didn't you? Wherever focus goes, energy flows. You envisioned something, you got clear about it, and then you started thinking about all the reasons why you wanted it. You got excited about it. Said, this is what's next for me now. I want this. You may have dreamed about it, thought about it, talked about it. But when you focus on something continuously, something magical happens. You get insights, don't you? You overhear a conversation and you hear something you wouldn't have heard if you didn't have that outcome or goal that you wanted so badly. Who's ever come up with something, obsessed about it, didn't even know how to do it, and it just happened and it came together? Who's had that experience? Say I. So why don't we tap into that power now for your business and life?
When I worked for other companies, some of them, not to mention any names, were so bad, they would treat people the old way. I'm the boss, here's what you're gonna do because I'm the boss, right? Or there were times, for example, where maybe had $1 for lunch. You can't get a lot for $1. So I just knew that that's how I was. And if I had a company that I had control of, by gosh, everyone was gonna be treated the way I wanted to be treated. So the minute we could afford it, everyone had free lunch. Whether you had money or not, you have free lunch. We pay for it for you. Carpool will pay for that. So we started doing things for people that I wish happened to me. Maybe that's part of fate. Maybe because a lot of things along the way weren't so good, that as things started getting good, it was so easy for me to share with our people, so easy to do that. People sometimes don't save money. As soon as we possibly could afford it, we started profit sharing. We're at the end of every year, and we'll take that profit sharing and put it in a retirement fund for you. It's yours, it's yours. If you're here so many years, it goes with you no matter where you go. But it's yours, that's your money.
That's really incredible. And how much do you think that that sort of golden rule approach has fed into your ridiculously low turnover rate, which is literally almost unprecedented? I mean, that's crazy.
True. I try and treat people exactly the way they'd want to be treated, exactly, or the way I would have wanted to be treated. I'm happy with my people. I realize my people are the company. If my people go, my God, the company goes. People are your company. And they take care of the customer. The customer is always right no matter what. So what do we do so the customer's happier? If somebody's unhappy, we try and discover why. And because you treat people this way, and we love them, you walk in our company, it's love. If you go to the front desk here in Century City, this girl just has the biggest smile saying, hi, welcome to John Paul Mitchell Systems. She loves what she does. Our big problem is we don't have turnover. We have so many people want to work for us, and the thing is, you got to wait for somebody to die. Now, as we grow, we'll add 1 or 2 on, obviously, at a time.
Sure.
And we're pretty big now because we're in 96 countries. It's how you take care of people anywhere in the world. You don't boss them around, you include them in what you're doing.
As Shakespeare noted, there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. There's nothing good or bad, right? There's just stimulus, and then there's response.
Things happen, and
right.
give it a meaning.
But people think that it is objectively a certain way. So now, because they think it is an objectively a certain way, they feel they are supposed to react based on those emotions that are getting kicked up in their mind. What I'm saying is absolutely not. Those emotions may not serve you. They're certainly not aimed at moving you towards your goal. Their job is to keep you alive, plain and simple. So that's not necessarily very helpful in a modern context. So if you want to always be moving towards your goal, you want to be optimized, you've got to learn to get control of your emotions. You've got to learn to understand to tell yourself a narrative that isn't predicated on necessarily identifying what is objectively true, because I don't think that we experience the world that way. It's identifying what's going to work to get me to my goal. And that, to me, like, my whole thing is goal first, everything else works backwards from that.
Like starting from the grand strategy, like identifying it and then building the steps backwards to reverse engineer it, essentially.
Correct.
Fail early, fail often, fail forward. You know, it's always a little bit frustrating to me when people have a negative relationship with failure. failure is a massive part of being able to be successful. You have to get comfortable with failure. You have to actually seek failure. Failure is where all of the lessons are. You know, when you go to the gym and you work out, you're actually seeking failure. You want to take your muscles to the point where you get to failure, because that's where the adaptation is. That's where growth is. Successful people fail a lot. They fail a whole lot more than they succeed, but they extract the lessons from the failure, and they use that, the energy, and they use the wisdom to come around to the next phase of success. You gotta take a shot. You have to live at the edge of your capabilities. You gotta live where you're almost certain you're gonna fail. That's the reason for practice. Practice is controlled failure. You're getting to your limit, getting to your limit, getting to your limit. You can't lift that, you can't do that, until you get to the point that all of a sudden your body makes the adjustment, and then you can do it. Failure actually helps you to recognize the areas where you need to evolve. So fail early, fail often, fail forward.
God, here's what I think. I think we get one at bat. The number one thing that scares me in life is regret. I really, really, really don't want to be on my deathbed, whether that's tomorrow or when I'm 97, and think, oh, I should have done that. I should, like, that spooks me, right? Like, hard work, people judging me, leaving, trolling me on social media, like all the stuff that normal people worry about, I don't worry about. I worry about regret. And so I'm trying to squeeze everything out of my life. And so, yeah, I do a lot.
That all of us are born with a gift, but you gotta hone it. It's just not, you're not gonna become great. And we talk about the school of greatness, we talk about, greatness is upon you. And I realized that my gift wasn't going to create itself. My gift wasn't going to nurture itself. My gift wasn't going to perfect itself. That was something I had to do. And so, man, before you know it, we did a video that went viral. I think it's got over 50 million hits now. And we turn our passion into profit. Yeah, we turn it, man. Yeah, I love it. Turn our passion into profit.
Let's talk now about what to do with the dollar, especially for teenagers and for kids. This is really important, because this is one of the best places to start when you're like 15 years old, mid-teens. This is a great place, what to do with the dollar. Now, here's the tendency on attitude, because attitude determines so much of our lives. What difference does it make if a child has $1 when you ask what should he do with it? It's only a child and it's only $1. But see, here's where it all begins. Your financial journey begins with what you do with the first $1. That's where it begins. Now, sure, you can do the wrong things and finally correct that and get on a better path, but it all begins on what you do with your resources. Jot this phrase down. It's one of the best for the weekend. Here's the 2 challenges of life. Number 1, the development of our full potential. That's challenge number 1. Challenge number 2 is the wise use of all our resources. That sums up life in general. The development of all of our potential and the wise use of all our resources. One of our resources is time, and we talked about that. Now we're going to talk about the wise resource called money. And let me share with you now a little plan. Because when I met Shof, and he asked me about my financial condition. He said, how much money have you saved and invested the last 6 years? And I said 0. He said, not a good number. Here's what I told him. If I had more money, I'd have a better plan. Now jot this down, because here's what he said. If you had a better plan, you would have more money. Next key phrase, it's not the amount that counts, it's the plan that counts. So let's start with something now as seemingly as small as $1. What should you do with it? Here's what we teach, teenagers especially. You should never spend more than 70 cents. Never spend more than 70 cents of each dollar you earn, or each dollar that comes your way, by gift or by labor. Now, you've got to have some plan what to do with your dollar. I've developed this little plan simply for suggestion, and then you've got to do the rest to revise it and do whatever you want to with it. But here's what I teach. Never spend more than 70 cents. You got to pick something, some number. This is the best one I could figure out. Now we've got another 10 cents, and another 10 cents, and another 10 cents, which is the 30 plus the 70, which is the full dollar. So we spend nothing more than 70 cents. Now what do we do with the other 30? Here's some of the most important information. 10 cents is for charity, or for church, or whatever worthy projects you think you might engage in. Here's one of the best things to teach kids: generosity. Because first we're going to teach abundance, to provide more than you could use for yourself. The be fruitful philosophy means to produce more than you need, so you have more than necessity. You have some to share. Some churches teach a 10%, a tithe they call it, which is fine. The key is to either administer this 10 cents yourself or to give it to some institution, a church or whatever, and let them spread it around. Let them put it where it's needed. Now, if you're going to give to some charity or church, you must let them take you on the tour and show you where it goes. Okay, if you part with the money, let them give you the tour. Here's where the 10% goes if you're going to tithe. Because now that gives you great joy to give 10%. Because you say, hey, here's what it's doing, here's what it's doing, here's where it's going, here's who gets it. Okay? Now the next 10 cents is called the use of capital. Here's what capital and capitalism is. So jot this down. Capital is any value you set aside. Capital is any value you set aside to be invested in an enterprise that brings value to the marketplace, hoping to make a profit. That's what capital and capitalism is. I can say it in one sentence. Capital is any value you set aside to be invested in an enterprise that brings value to the marketplace, hoping to make a profit. Now, the capital is the value you set aside. Taking capital and investing it in an enterprise and bringing the value to the marketplace we call capitalism. Capital and capitalism. Now, who can understand this? First of all, the farmers understand it. Here's what seed corn is. It's capital. It's seed corn means the seed that you set aside to be planted in the ground, take care of in the summer, hoping to have a profit and a harvest in the fall. So the farmer sets aside his seed corn. Question, would he let his family eat it? No, this seed is not to be eaten. It's to be invested in the ground, to take a risk, cared for in the summer, harvested and multiplied in the fall. That's it. Now the same is true of some of your money. If you set aside, and I suggest, part of your capital should be set aside for an enterprise to show a profit. And we can teach kids the early fundamentals of capitalism. Now, once the kid has $1 profit, now what should he do with the $1? This is the formula that I've come up with, what to do with that $1. Don't spend more than 70 cents, 10 cents for church or charity, 10 cents to invest back into your business so that someday you can buy more than one bottle and get it a little cheaper so that when you sell it, you make a little more money. Now, here's the other 10 cents. It's 10 cents that you invest and let someone else use it. This is called active capital, where you actually engage in the enterprise that makes a profit. Now, another 10 cents is for passive capital, where you let someone use this 10 cents out of every $1. You put it in a bank that pays interest. They use it and they pay you for the use of this money. That's called passive capital. So we've got active capital and passive capital. Maybe you invest this in a stock eventually if you have enough money, and the stock pays you dividends, and also there may be an increase in the value of the stock. So this is the little formula I come up with: 70, 10, 10, and 10. It's very simple. and kids can figure it out, kids can understand it. Enterprises that kids can be involved in starting early. Now, when you first start, if you're an adult now, you may be in such bad shape financially that you couldn't do the 70-10, 10 and 10. If you're in real bad shape, you may have to do the 97-1, 1 and 1. Because it may take this to pay your bills if you haven't had a good plan up until now. But jot this down now, it's not the amount that counts, it's the plan that counts. So let's say you were in such poor financial shape, you had to start 97-1 for charity, 1%, another 1% for active capital, another 1% for passive. Now here's the key. To get these numbers starting up and get this number starting down. If you will actually do this, you can't believe how exciting it is to watch the numbers change. Remember what Shoaff said. If you will change what? Everything will change for you. If you start to change, I'm telling you, these numbers will start to change. And the first thing you know, these numbers keep going up, 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 until finally you can get to the 70, 10, 10, and 10. When I was 25 years old, my mentor, Mr. Shoaff, said, "Show me your current financial plan for the future." And of course, I didn't have one. He said, well, this would be a good time to lay out a good financial plan for the future, what to do with your money. And I came up finally with the 70, 10, 10, and 10. Don't spend more than 70% of your income. 10% for church or charity. 10 cents active capital, buy and sell, see if you can make a profit. And 10% for passive capital, let somebody else use your money. Pay you interest, dividends, stock increase, whatever. It's a pretty good plan, 70, 10, 10, and 10. A lady in Mexico the other day said, "I heard your plan 10 years ago. I followed it." She said, "I'm now a millionaire. I own 2 different properties because you also said don't buy the second car until you've bought the second house." It's not cars that make you rich. It's real estate that makes you rich. She said, "I'm now about to buy the 3rd house, so I'm now giving myself the luxury of buying the 3rd car." Simple little ideas. And she said, "I followed the 70, 10, 10, and 10, taught it to other people. They're following it and getting great results." One thing I didn't know when I was growing up and found out at age 25, that you could work both on your living and your fortune at the same time if you had a good plan. Don't just work on your living, work on your fortune. Work on becoming financially independent. Financial independence is the ability to live from the income of your personally invested resources. And the day you can finally do that, what's exciting about that is that now you can work for joy and not for necessity. And strangely enough, you probably work a lot harder for joy than you do for necessity. I have a unique friend. He started an enterprise, and by the time he had it up and running about 2.5, 3 years, he didn't have to work anymore the rest of his life. So now he's financially independent. But then he created a vast fortune, that next 20 years of his life, simply because he was working for joy and not for necessity. So get to that position as quick as you can. So I'm now teaching. Work both on your living and your fortune. The reason for earning a living is to make a fortune, not necessarily from your living, but from what you earn, invested wisely. I talked to a lady the other day. She said, "Mr. Owen, I'm in real estate." I said, "Wonderful. How many properties do you own?" She said, No, I sell real estate." I said, "Well, let me ask you one more time. How many properties do you own?" Finally got the message across. I said, "The reason for selling real estate is to earn the money to buy real estate. If you sell real estate, you make a living. If you buy real estate, you make a fortune." She said, "I got the message." So don't buy the second car until you've bought the second home.